see if 1, 2, 3, 4. Is the sound running? Well then, there we go. Ready for the next day of the electronic show. If you just tuned in, this is the electronic show, and I look like a total dork because I have this one on. That's because I was just checking the sound to see if everything is okay live. We're still not officially live, so I haven't messaged anybody or told anybody that we're running this show. You guys who are online who see this, you're the only people who know this, that we're online right now, so I don't really expect a whole lot of viewers. Okay, little surprises here and there, obviously. And it is still just in the testing phase. I have been adding a lot to the broadcast software, Open Broadcaster, and well, not so much to the software itself, but you know, the various special effects and various transitions, and I'm planning to buy more cameras, as some of you may or may not know. But I am planning to purchase a whole bunch of cameras in order to be able to switch between the various things I'm doing here when I'm doing it here. It is not really meant to be a professional show or anything like that, but I want to make it as entertaining as possible for those people who are watching, because technically you're just watching somebody who is you know, playing with his electronic toys in a house somewhere you don't know where, and I'm basically just having fun. I used to make an electronic show, which took a lot of editing and took a lot of time researching and stuff like that. And when I work, I simply don't have the time to do that. And the reason I'm doing this live now is because I do something with electronics, toys, or video games, or programming, or music, or anything science related every single day of my life. And people are wondering, why are you not filming this? Well, I'm not filming this because of various reasons. One of those reasons, I don't have time to edit this all the time. So I was thinking, would there be a smart way to just turn on my computer and go live instead of having to edit everything? And then I found out this piece of software was open source as well, which made things much easier. I could just I can even pre-select a whole bunch of videos. I don't even have to edit the videos. I can just make it transition into a video or web page, or this that I'm doing right here, or several cameras. It's actually pretty practical. I didn't know we had that kind of cool stuff. So I played with that a few days. and it's getting better and better and more interesting. So yeah, all I have to do is to reach out. I have several monitors here. I have like 3 monitors here, which shows me the various states of what I'm doing. It shows me if it's going live. It shows me how many people are watching. It shows me the various screens I can prepare for you guys before I'm actually showing it. Say I have a web page. Right now it's just Google, but if I'm transitioning to that, I can just click here and we're on the web page at the same time. So I can serve stuff like YouTube or anything like that and show you stuff. Something I was looking into here the other day, because you know, people like me who collects a lot of components, you can see I have like thousands and thousands, if not millions, of components in the background. The difference is this is really well sorted and you can walk around on the floors. But I looked into Hoarders, and they like to collect a lot of stuff too. And I'm sometimes thinking if I got anything in common with those people, because I love to collect all kinds of electronic components. But I watched a few of those shows and I couldn't relate to a lot of them, because you know, a lot of them just collect anything they can collect, which means newspapers, old wrappers, shrink wrap papers to their food. They think they can use that for something later. I'm not saying that's anything wrong, because you know, you as a hoarder, if you are one of those, you have your reasons to do that. Just like I have my reasons to collect electronics. But I don't collect everything, you know. I don't collect my garbage, which means I don't find anything useful about the chocolate wrapping paper or the toilet roll. Sure, you can use those to make Christmas ornaments, but the interesting part about when I watch these hoarder programs is that they often never use them. They just hoard them, basically. So in the end, they end up having a really filled apartment or house, filled to the brim with all kinds of hoarding. Just looking at YouTube here. I'm not going to show anything of this, you know, but just looking at these things. This is what people do, you know, in their very own home. I can't see any use for anything of those things here that they are collecting.
Starts
because to me, it doesn't look like a useful 1998, collection of any sorts.
The cans are black.
To me, it just looks kind of crazy, to be honest. And I would never do those things. I'm not saying I'm a better person for it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I don't really understand why you would have the need to collect tons of stuff, which has no meaning other than to yourself, of course. But if it's just wrappers and all kinds of stuff, I don't get it. Why would you want to do that in the first place? These hoarder programs and stuff like that, they often talk about it as if it was an illness or something like a mental disease or anything. That I don't know. I'm not a professional. I'm not a medical professional. I cannot tell why people hoard the things that they do. I know a few hoarders myself in the little city that I live in and the bigger city around it. I know a few of them, and they're really nice people. One of them is works just like everybody else, and you wouldn't believe that he is a hoarder at all. But his entire house is filled with all kinds of stuff. And I'm not talking just electronics, but I'm talking about all stuff from all over the world. And I'm not talking about sorted stuff, but I'm talking about pizza boxes on the floor, cigarette butts that never gets emptied. And when he goes to work, you would never believe it, because he's just like everybody else. He's just like you and me. There's no difference whatsoever. He's professional. He does his job. Just like those hoarder movies you can watch on television. So it's kind of a revelation to watch those things, because I'm thinking I don't want to end up like one of those. Anyway, not that I'm not talking about them as person or personalities. I'm just thinking I just don't want to collect like that all the freaking time, because I think I'd go nuts. See, one of my friends are online trying to say something. Right. I'm gonna tell him I'm live. Hi, Swartz. because this is a live program. This is not a pre-recording if you're just tuning in. All right. So yeah. All right. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting subject to talk about, hoarding and stuff like that today. So that's one of those things I wanted to talk to you guys about, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there who collect various things. For example, many of those people who are subscribing to my channel, they're collecting games, and a lot of them are also collecting video components and stuff like that I do. Maybe you collect old VHS tapes, I don't know, but I'm sure there's something in your life that you like and you collect. So that's pretty cool too. So I have been thinking also, since this isn't really official yet, this channel here, I've been thinking sometimes when I see you guys log in, there's just one watching right now, and I think that's me. But yesterday we had like 6 people watching and talking to each other and talking to me live here on this channel, which I felt good about. It was pretty awesome to be able to have that kind of contact with my viewers. So I was thinking this is more like a online friendship rather than just viewing, just making a show for viewers, because this is essentially not really a show. I just call it an electronic show because that's how I started out with those little segments. But it has become much more a interaction with you guys, and that's a lot more fun for me because you know, when you live in a small town like I do, you don't get to interact a whole lot with people who are interested in science and electronics and stuff like that. Just live regular lives just like everybody else. And they're more inclined to like programs like Good Mythical Morning, which I just happen to like as well. In fact, I watch it almost every day. But this is basically just me and electronics and my friends. So it's you guys. So when I watch you online in the chat box, when you're talking, it's fun to just bring up some subjects, and we can do that interactively together here. Oh, I saw that Swartz just arrived. Hello, how are you doing? Remember, when I talk to you, there is a 5 to 10 seconds delay. So if I react a little bit late, it is only because yeah, it's a little bit delayed, and I really don't have that luxury that I can instantly respond to people. I don't know why it's like that. Maybe it's the servers somewhere else that is restreaming it to YouTube or anything like that. But right now I can inform you that I'm connected to a European server. In fact, Swartz, I think I'm connected to a German server. I think that's the last one I actually connected to. But there's still a 10-second delay between the reaction, because I can, every single time I'm looking at my third monitor, I can see the output results. I can see when you are seeing it, sort of. And that's usually 10 seconds later. That is kind of weird. Yeah, basically. And I also have the luxury of a 250 megabit line. So it is possible for me to watch the live streams everywhere at the same time I'm talking to you guys. So that is quite helpful. So if you just joined, I'm saying welcome to the Electronics channel. This is not really a show. It is just basically you and I who talk together and we interact. And instead of just me making all those videos about electronics and video gaming and science and all those things, I thought it would be more fun to do it more with a much more direct approach. So if I'm not looking into the camera all the time, is because I'm kind of new to this streaming thing, because I have like 3 monitors right in front of me. One of them is the one that I see myself live, so I can sort of see if I'm showing you the right thing. Drinking my tea here with a bunny or anything else, and I can there's a second screen. This is where the desktop is, where we show you stuff. There you go. That's the that's where I can surf. And you know, today's topics, as we were talking about hoarding and stuff like that, which is just a topic I thought I started with. So yes, Schwartz, I have no particular plan today. I basically woke up about an hour ago because I've been turning around the hours, basically, turning night into day and day into night, because there haven't been that much substitute work to do lately, and that gives me a lot of time to talk to most people who are online at night, which is way easier than being online at daytime, because then there's absolutely nothing happening whatsoever. So that's basically it. But you know, every single day I always do something with electronics. I meddle around with something. I either play video games just like you guys do, and sometimes I just go surfing and wondering what today's topics are about. And today I just happened to look into hoarding because I thought it was really weird with all those people who are collecting all kinds of stuff. You know, I'm no stranger to collecting tons of stuff myself. You guys know that, of all people, because I have like tons of electronic components. I have never counted those because they could be technically and literally in the millions. For example, when I say in millions of components, I am really not kidding you. For example, you can just look at all those electrolytes right there. They're the same type. But don't get me wrong, this is the most common type. This is the 2200 microfarad. This is one of the most common ones. I use this when I repair old stereos and electronics and stuff like that. So this is quite common. The not so common types, I have all sorts of. For example, this is the 400 volt 10 microfarad. I got like a lot of them really stuck. They really filter brims, and sometimes it's really hard to get them out from the shelves, actually. So that can be a little bit tough. I also have popular items like you know, standard LEDs. This is not a standard LED. This is actually an RGB LED, which is kind of like a Christmas LED. You can have all kinds of colors on those. If you've noticed, you can see that there's four pins on this LED, and this is basically because you have a common ground or anode, or it can be in a common cathode for that matter as well, and then you have RGB, R, G, and B. So if you apply voltage to those, you will get 3 different colors, and you can of course mix them as you wish. And I have basically all kinds of weird stuff laying around here like that. I think I even have some old Commodore 64 plugs, which means I can make an interface to the old Commodore 64. I bet it's a computer most of you haven't even heard about. But it's kind of fun to play around with those things. So yeah, it's basically not going to be a show. I'm hoping that you guys are, you know, talking. I'm looking this way. The reason I'm looking this way is because I'm looking at the chat box, and right now there's only Schwartz that's been chatting to himself and me. So no, I don't have any particular plans. He's asking if I have any plans today. I don't really have any plans for today. And just like I really don't have any plans. That's just why I did this in the first place, was just to stream it instead of making those videos, because it takes forever to make those, and it could be like a month between each release. So I'm thinking every single time I get out of bed and go into my electronics workshop, I might as well stream or do something like that instead. And then I found this absolutely wonderful broadcast software that seems to be doing a lot of cool stuff for me, which I kind of like. Okay, let's check out Hoarders again, because this is today's topic. If you have any opinions upon Hoarders, do tell me. What do you think about Hoarders, and why do you think they collect? Or if you collect anything, do you collect any game figurines, game characters? Let's go into collecting and see what we can find out when it comes to collectors. Alright, there's someone collecting Disney stuff. That's interesting. Wait a second, am I getting an echo here? No, it's just this. I should lower that a little bit, like that. That's good. There's someone collecting lots of stuff. Wow, that is a whole lot of stuff. I mean, but it's clean. I mean, this is not really terrible. I mean, if you look at everywhere, everything is really well sorted, and everything seems to be really clean. Okay, maybe there's a little bit too many boxes right there, but still, it is relatively clean actually. I mean, oh, that's Lilo's Stitch character, more Stitch than Lilo, you see? And oh yeah, all kinds of Disney memorabilia there. Wow, that's kind of interesting. I would like to actually visit somebody like that who collects all kinds of Disney stuff like that. It could be anything really. It could be collecting maybe just collecting Pokemons. I don't know. I remember saw this show about somebody that just collected tons of Pokemons. That was actually pretty interesting. See if I can find something else. Okay, someone who collects Hot Wheels. Let's see who this is. Oh wow. Oh, they're all valuables as well. Those are really valuable. Let's see, I'm gonna expand that a little bit so I can see what you guys are talking about. Just expanding my chat window. Welcome to Dino. Okay, he has a question. All right, let's take that. That's interesting. All right, let's take that. He has a question. I have 4 1200 volts 95 amp thyristor diodes, and I'd like to use them on a capacitor bank I'm building. Do you think they will work? That's a good question. I have to owe you an answer. I don't know, to be honest. I do believe I ordered some thyristors that are actually pretty strong. Let's see if I have those. See what type it is. I'm looking. Hang on, I'll be right back. I'll check it out. Meanwhile, you guys can watch this. Oh, that's the wrong one. Why did I quit? Why did I press quit? Never mind. Can't find them. Got way too many components. But do you have a name for those thyristors? Do you know what the name are? So we can Google it, perhaps. I was thinking about if we can find the schematics for it, because it's possible to find a solution, I'm sure. Because what you're doing sounds pretty common to be doing. What are you going to do with 1.2 kilowatts, by the way? Are you going to make a Tesla, or are you going to drive a really big CRT or something like that? I have no idea. What are you going to do with that, do you know? I'm kind of curious about that. Speaking of which, I was actually thinking about one day I was going to look into that old television set I was showing here earlier. The one that is from 1959. Blow shit up. Okay. Yeah, that's always fun. That's always a classic. But okay. But in order to soft start those really old television sets, one shouldn't just plug it right into the mains, because if one is doing that, it's kind of dangerous. Speaking of fixing old television sets, let's see what people are doing in that department. Gotta love YouTube for all the stuff that's out there. Vintage television restoration. This is something that I hold personally very dear, because I really love this stuff. Wow, that's a beautiful television set. I can see that somebody is doing something. That's typically inside an old television set like that. If you look at that, they didn't actually use PCBs back then, printed circuit boards. they basically just connected everything together. In fact, when I made my first tube radio, I did roughly the same thing. I'll show you that. I'll be right back and I'll show you that. It's collecting dust, but it's still there. Oh, crashing into the microphone right there. Okie dokie. And I still do that from time to time. But this is a long time ago. I made a tube radio. Very simple construction. I have a coil here, which happen to have 4 bleeding output or 5 points output, which I'm using to switch between the different coils sections, so I can switch between different frequencies. There is a small tuning capacitor. I didn't have a bigger one back at the time, but just like you see on that television set that guy was working on there, you can see that under here it was constructed pretty much the same way as this one constructed, because we didn't use any PCBs in order to do it. Now this is a modern build. You can see that from it's a modern speaker here, but it's pretty much made the same way, just by connecting components together like that, directly to the tubes, actually to the tube sockets. But on the top it actually looks kind of neat, just like if you look inside of a tube television, etc. It kind of looks like this actually. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm just gonna let that one sit there a little bit, just for fun. And we keep looking at people's old retro television set. Okay, Dino, I see that you have your thyristor there. Speaking of a railgun, I remember somebody was working on that on the Dutch forum. We could always take a look and see if we can find that, if we go there. And we search for railgun on the electronics forum. This is one of the places I am a moderator of. So let's go in. Railgun. See if we can find something of those old posts that somebody were working on. I need a big ass cap. Let's see what I can find. Huh. Linear accelerator, right. Recoils and railguns. Finally, we have tuning with channels 2 through 13. Did you actually check out Mehdi? Because I know that Mehdi Sagdar, he was actually making a simple railgun on his show. I don't know if you saw that. That was pretty nifty. Let's see if we can find him again. Because he made one of those in his show Electro Boom. This guy is really funny. I'm a big fan of this guy. He makes so many funny things, and he has got a lot of subscribers for a reason, because this guy is literally hilarious. I mean, he shows things in a very good way. He's funny when he's doing it. As you can see, he likes to mess up, but he does that informed, so to speak. He really does know what he's talking about. When he is doing this stuff, he's just doing it for fun. Basically, that's what he is doing. He is not really he's not really as inexperienced as he showed himself, like on those that channel of his, because he's really funny and he's smart too. So this guy, he knows what he's talking about. Okay, let's see if we can find something about that thyristor there we're talking about. See if we can find it. Let's open the data sheet for it first. That's a good idea. See what it's like. Wait a second. Wow, that is a big one. This is the one you got. Okay. That's actually a good point. Have you actually considered using supercapacitors instead of just a normal capacitors? You know, they can charge quite a lot. I'm not sure you'll find some supercapacitors that accepts 1200 volts though. Maybe there are. I don't know. Could be interesting to see. Let's see if there is. Let's see if there's something like that. High voltage supercapacitors instead. That's interesting. Someone was talking about it in the physics forums back in the days. Okay. But still, 640 volts is high voltages, so yeah. Okay, I have some 1.5 or 1. I think it's 1.5 or 2 kilovolts one, but they are. Let me see if I can find those. Well, let me see if I can find those. Should be here somewhere. Should be easy to spot too, but they are not that much. They're only small ones. 1.4 kilovolts. 0.5. So that's 150 nanofarads essentially. That's what they are. But these together, these can actually pack a serious punch too. You don't want to charge this up and receive it when somebody tosses this to you. I can tell you that much, because then you're going to get a shock. In fact, you're going to get quite a shock if you did that. Right. But I do think I have some 400 volts, the ones you were talking about, 360 volts. I think I do have some of those. I do. Well, these are some motors right there. So yeah, that's that is, what did this say? Yeah, it's 2,200, probably the same as you have. 400 volt DC. These really big one, quite heavy too. And you have 12 of those motors. Oh wow. Yeah, you could do something with that, I'm sure. Right. So yeah, that would be pretty cool. I've still to make some Tesla stuff. I haven't made anything like that because I haven't been messing around with high voltages. Most of the stuff that I do is in the low volt area. Arduinos and microcontrollers and robotics and things like that. That's what I do. I showed it yesterday actually. The only high voltage I've really done is actually this radio, but back then I tried to make it as low voltage as possible, because I'm kind of a little bit of a wuss when it comes to high voltages. I don't like to build big constructions that is in the kilovolt range or anything like that. That's not me. I'm more of a robotics kind of guy, you know, who likes to build robotics and stuff like that. That's what I like to do. You know, stuff like that. Basically. This is an Arduino based one. Basically. Yeah. Alrighty. I've been thinking about taking programming C lately, so I'm thinking about reading this book a little bit in order to get somewhere. Yep. Basically, yes. I did. Speaking of supercapacitors, I actually did buy some of them from China, but I'm not. I don't know if I'm dealing with those right, or I'm just in the wrong here, because they were really, those that I bought was actually quite difficult to use. They were only low voltage capacitors. We're talking about in 5-volt range here, basically used for as backup batteries, but they are supercapacitors, which some of them they have 0.2 farad. Some of them, the strongest one, were 2 farads, 4 farads, and 5 farads. So that's pretty good for a small supercapacitor, because a capacitor the same size would usually be in the, when the 5-volt range, it would probably be in the 2000 microfarad range. This was 1 to 4 farads, so that's insane for such a small size, actually. So yeah, it is. Speaking of high voltage stuff I've never tried, a friend of mine on the Dutch Force Electronics Forum actually sent me something interesting. See if I can find it. It's kind of unbranded and weird, so but I know what it is. But I think I was going to show you guys this because it's kind of special and kind of weird. And since you like weird things, why not? Let's find it, if I can find it anymore. Where are those gone? Having reserved most of my electronics workshop size to playing with virtual reality, I can tell you there's a little bit cramped here in the studios area, because I have literally no space to move around in here, so I'm kind of cramped. Where are those? I can't seem to find them at the moment. I should be around here, easily reachable within view, because I thought I was going to mess around with those one day. We're talking about the predecessors to LEDs, color LEDs anyway, which they used on those gigantic displays at baseball stations and stuff like that. They were basically high voltage tubes. Why on earth are they gone? I can't even see them anywhere anymore. Because I'm so sure I have been rearranging a lot of the space here, because I needed the space to mess around with Arduinos, as you probably know. So I mean, I would never believe that I would run out of space when it comes to shelves filled with components, because I got so many of them. But that actually happened. In the end, I was actually doubling up inside of them, so I can have double shelves. kind of like this. If you see what I mean, it's kind of like this. It's having double because I didn't have enough space in the end. I'll see if I can find those. It's irritating that I can't find those because those are kind of fun to look at. Let me see if I can find them over here somewhere. See if maybe there are these shelves. Maybe there are. I don't know. Lots of tubes here too. Stuff like that. Old big fat tubes. See if I can find some of them here. I haven't gotten around to marking all the shelves yet. That's because it takes a lot of time, and I reorganize a lot of these because there are so many of them. So I do that. Can't seem to find them there either. Maybe they're over here. I don't know. New. Not direct view here either. Even more tubes. That's a big one. Nope. Not in direct view anyway. That's for sure. They're so elusive. They should be around here. I can feel it. I can sense you, Luke Skywalker. I can sense your presence. Yes, I can indeed sense the presence of this thing. I just don't know where it is. And before I just waste way too much time for this, I'm just going to ignore that. Otherwise we're going to have to look at an old guy's backside for the next 20 minutes, and that's going to be as boring as it is for me to you as well. So I gotta take a rain check on that, but it was kind of sad. But that's good, because I want to power that thing just for fun to see if they work. It was kind of like a part of a big display. That's right, Schwartz. That's right. But most of them don't label stuff either. They just laying stuff everywhere on the floor. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's right. There's way too much stuff in here, in the shelves. But I do know I've been building so many things with these things. If you've seen all the other stuff that I do on the then I've made a lot of stuff with these things. Everything from digital radio to analog radio. The only thing I've never made before is a digital television. I haven't made an analog television either. There was, back in those days, there was this thing that I always wanted, and that was to build my own television set when it was still possible to do that. But in Norway, where they had this interesting electronics set, that was my first electronics kit ever. I'll see if I can find it for you. It was called Philips Earth Contact 2003. That was my first electronics experimenters kit. This was one of the first that I ever got, and I played a lot with this. It's basically like you can follow schematics if you like, and you can put the components through small springs like this. And this is how you connect the transistor and everything else onto it. And that's pretty interesting, actually. And there was this special... Oh, this is the deluxe kit. I always wanted one of those as a kid. This was the air electric engineer. In German, they call it Erstkontakt. It was called electronic Erstkontakt, so like a first contact or something like that. I'm sure Schwartz can explain to me what that meant, but it probably means something like that. But in America, they used to call it the Electronics Engineer Kit from Philips. It is basically a Dutch set from the Netherlands. And there's that monitor I always wanted. I always wanted that kit called the EE 2008 and 2007. This was the kit that you can actually make your very own television set. You could build your own television set from scratch. This was not sold in in Norway at the time. The only thing that I could get a hold on back then was the E2003 and the smaller models. The 2003 cost quite a lot of money, and I remember my family each Christmas, because I've destroyed a few of those kits. We couldn't just go into a store and buy those components because they were expensive still. It was back in the 80s anyway. So sometimes when I destroyed those components, blew up a transistor or anything like that, I had to wait to another Christmas so I can get a new kit like this, and then finally get to build my radios and stuff like that. We're talking about a kid who was 10 years old back then. So this is pre-computer. This is before I actually got my first computer, like the Commodore 64. So yeah, this is kind of fun to do. Always wanted to do this. Yeah. Thanks for verifying that, Mr. Schwartz. He said that first contact is correct. Erst Kontakt. Das erste Kontakt. Elektronik-Ingenieur. Something like that. My German is non-existent. I wouldn't say my German is good, bad. It's just non-existent. It just doesn't exist for me. I just can't speak German, and that's how simple it is. I understand a little bit of it, but I don't really speak it at all. Man, this gives me so much nostalgia. I kind of really want to get some of those kits. I did get one that is a German kit. It's just a little bit later. It's a 1986 kit called Cosmos. I have a video about that when I got that. I wanted to have one of these just to sit here and build with in the Christmas, just to relive my childhood, because these things are absolutely freaking awesome. And let me take it out for you, and I'll show you this so you don't have to watch the video yourself. And get this one away so I got some space. Take this one away. I'll be right back. See if I can find that electronics kit. It is probably in my collection here somewhere. See if I can find it. It's probably in here somewhere. I believe, yeah, there it is. Oh, there's lots of boxes. There you go. This is one I found. Yeah, this is one of those I found at a flea market many years ago, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of like the Philips Earth Contact, or electric engineers they call them in America, but it is much more modern version, even though it still is from the 80s. It's 1986, I found out on the internet, so I know it's 1980s. And Dino, you're saying you were never any good with electronics because you haven't done that much with it? That's fine. That's exactly what these kits were made for. So if you are going to break some collector's heart, you can probably get one of these and build for yourself, but you're going to need the manual. The thing is, this one came without the manual. As you can see, this one is hermetically sealed. It is sealed with plastic, but as you can see, the backside of this has been opened. I am assuming that somebody took out the manual and never opened the rest, but they never put the manual back into this one. And that's kind of sad, because the only manuals I've been able to find are German. I don't understand German. I can follow the schematics, so it wouldn't matter anyway. But I didn't get any copies of them because they don't put that online. So I've been trying to find the manual for this. This one came with the only Swedish manual ever made for this kit, but that's gone. Someone took this out of the box, so that's missing. I'm actually missing the manual to this, which is kind of a pity, because I'm not much of a collector. I wouldn't sell this. This one could fetch 400 to 500 pounds, and I'm not kidding. I've been testing eBay. People are willing to pay 400 to 500 pounds for this old set. But I would gladly open it and split it open myself instead of just collecting it and just building it just like it was the 80s again, because this would be fun for me to do. As you can see, there's op amplifiers, there are digital circuits like simple logic and stuff like that. It would be fun just to reminiscence the days, you know, better times if you like, where things were either more simple or more complicated depending on how you look at it. So yeah, that would have been fun in a way. So yeah. This is what you would use as a kid back in my days in order to learn about electronics. And it was a lot of fun too. But this was the predecessor to the Philips. I think it's a daughter company or something like that, or a game company. I'm not really sure. Cosmos is super famous in Germany for making various games and kits and experimenters kits and stuff like that, but they're not very famous over here. So it's rare to even find a Cosmos kit in this place. This used to be a Philips kit, but this is more an updated version of the Philips Earth Contact, as I was talking about here in the first place. Oh, I didn't show you this, guys, all the way. So that's kind of sad. You didn't get to see that. That's why it would really help to have a little bit of automatic editing once in a while. Let me open this again so you can see it for real this time. That's because it's a little bit more fun. We have another person joining us, and welcome to the channel. We're just having fun right now, showing some old electronics kits from the olden days. As you can see, Schwarz, they didn't even bother to translate these into Swedish. But I would be quite happy to get the German manual for this, even though I don't speak a word of German, basically. I would be still quite happy to get that, so I can actually use this as for a Christmas maybe. Because this was like a Christmas present for me when I found this. There's even more stuff inside of the box, as you can see here. So yeah, there's a lot of fun. I would love to play with this one day, even though they say it's worth a lot of money to sell. I wouldn't dream of selling it. I would actually split it open, and I know I'm breaking some collector's heart if they watch this later, because everything that gets shown live here gets recorded by YouTube, so it's possible that if you miss this show, it is possible for you to actually look back on it. If you just had to go or anything like that, you can always click on the channel and you'll be able to see this show and rewind and fast forward and skip the boring parts where I'm just looking at myself and the screen or the chat screen or whatever. So that's the nature of live television, by the way. That's how that goes, you know. There you go. Yep, I'm gonna put this back. More cool stuff. You're wondering where did I find all of this? This is what you're asking. Well, I go to flea markets a lot, especially electronics flea markets. They called it Ham Radio Fest, Ham Spirit, Ham Fest, flea markets for radio amateurs. Sometimes electronics stores that close down and stuff like that. I will be the first one in line to try to visit them to see if I can buy something for a low price. That is brand new, NOS, they call it a new old stock, that's what it says. And people often sell those things on eBay, but eBay is the last place I can look for those, because people on eBay, they usually know what they want. So instead of that Cosmos set that I only bought for maybe $20 or $30, I found the same box on eBay, the same condition for 400 or 500 British pounds. So that's like maybe $600 or something like that. So that's ridiculously expensive. And I would never buy something like that. to that price at all. But I find a lot of weird stuff. One of those things that I found was this copper set. I know that a lot of people who will watch this show later on, they're going to call me, they're going to write to me, they're going to email me a lot in order to get this thing, because this one is literally impossible to get. This is another of those things. I was given this by a Danish radio amateur from many, many years ago. Well, given. I paid $10 for it or something like that. They never really give you anything. But the thing is, it is almost like being given, because, you know, since I paid $10 for this, if you find this on eBay, you're going to pay like 10 or maybe 20 or maybe 100 times as much for it, because it's that rare. This is something called a copper through plate holing kit. This means through-hole plating system. That's what I call it, yeah. It is a system where you can repair PCBs. You can prototype with them. This one was brand new when I found it. It just has some coffee stains on top of it, but that doesn't matter because the kit itself is very complete. It even came with instruction manuals and everything else. And if you're not interested in electronics, you are probably asking yourself, what on earth can I be using that thing for? Well, see, that is something that I can explain to you, how you can use that and why you need that. Let's see here. If I pretend that I had a PCB that needed through-hole plating, let's see if I can find the PCB. Yep, I should have hundreds of those. So I'll take one out now. This is just a prototype board. As you can see, it's just a normal Vero board. And let's say that this was double-sided, which is not, but let's say that it was, and I needed to have a connection between the copper on top to the connection between the copper on the bottom. Then I could, in fact, select the thickness first of all. Select the thickness. In the future, we're going to have cameras so we can zoom in on this, because this broadcasting software would be able to do that in the first place. If you look, take a look at that. I got to tell you, Dino, you were asking me about an easy way to triggering thyristors. I have never worked with thyristors other than repairing some PC power supplies once in a while. That's the only thing I've been using. I've never constructed anything high voltage. I usually construct things that are in a low voltage range. We're talking about stuff between 0 volts and maximum 48 volts. And I haven't been having any use for thyristors so far, so I cannot answer that question. You will have to ask somebody else of the viewers. Maybe someone else will give an answer if they listen to this. So look at the comment box below. It's disabled right now. That's how they do it with live stuff. But you will be able to put it in chat. And later on, when this gets saved by YouTube, you may look back, because there could be other people who had the right answers for you. But you select the size. Back to the copper through-hole plating kit. You select your size of thickness that can actually fit this. This one doesn't fit because it's meant for bigger holes. Let's say that I'm finding one that actually fits. You can see that this doesn't fit either, so it's got to be the smallest one of them all. Right. Like this. Alright, there you go. This one fits, I think. Should fit. Yeah, this one fits. It goes through the hole, as you can see. So what it basically does, that it makes contact between this side and that side. And it has a small anvil. They call it a small anvil. This is a small metal socket that is used for punching through the holes. So, and there is a puncher. This is the valuable part, I've been told. This is a puncher. So what it does, I have this. You can see it's color coded. There's red here, and let's say that I'm going to use this red here right now to make a plating between this side and that side. I can take this one and put it in here. This is a guide, if you like. which is meant to drive this one through so I can get a small bit. I can put the small bit into here. I'm just gonna make a punch. I think I'm just doing it here like that. And I would be breaking it off here. Twisting it back and forth. If I'm not entirely mistaken, I think that's how it's done anyway, I'm not really sure. Could be wrong about this because I've never really had any use for this. I have used it to repair a few PCBs a long time ago, but those days are long gone basically. Oh, it went through there. But just to give you an idea, I'm going to put it down there. Yep, there you go. And I have to push this one down. There you go. Nope, that didn't work. Maybe I should read the instruction manual. That would be a good idea, I think. Feeder tube, that's right. Automatic punch. You need a nose piece. Okay, a nose piece. And they're all colored, but they have different colors than the one here. This is the yellow nose piece. This is the blue one, but this is the white one. What is the white one? It doesn't look like the other one. Let's see what this is. See what it does. It's very rare of me to actually read these instructions. I'm going to read them, see how it's used. Right. This is basically made for if you make your own PCBs, not already made PCBs. So you have to drill a hole that is just undersized, so you can actually punch it into place instead of being a little bit too big for it. So yeah, that's how it works. Right. Well, yeah, we can't use that on this, but that was fun anyway. I remember I did it at some point, but it was such a long time ago. We're talking at least 10 years ago. Glad to see the puncher is still working. So yeah. Yeah, this is kind of a really old kit. This is one of those weird, valuable things I sometimes find that people are seeking for other reasons, probably just mostly nostalgic reasons anyway. That's what I'm guessing. It comes in a little cute suitcase. Why they didn't put it the right way, the branding, it's beyond me. They probably weren't that much into advertising back then. So yeah, that's it for that. Oh yeah. Another tube thing. Another tube thing. Box full of tubes. Love those. This is a really old thing. This is a tube from the military in Denmark, I think, from the olden days. It's marked December of '66, but I do know it's a rebranded thing because inside of this you'll find some high voltage tubes. This is your area, Dino. These are high voltage tubes. They are meant for UHF, and I have heard that somebody told me that it can be used. Oh, it's dated January 29th, 1954. Wow, look at that. But they have rebranded it in the Danish military, I do believe. December '66. So probably a spare part of some sort. think it's a spare part. This is kind of interesting because they actually put those in vacuum packaging. If I can get this out, I'll show you. It's actually kind of a vacuum package. So they actually kept the tubes inside of a complete vacuum inside of this. So this is actually a brand new military tube from the Danish military. I do believe it is not produced by them though, it's just reserved for them back in the days. It was made by Mashlet Labs in is it California or Chicago? I'm not really sure. Can you guys tell me that? I have no idea where it is in the United States of America, but it's somewhere in America, I think. But I have a one that's been opened, because this is a sealed one. I'm not going to open the sealed one. I'll show you the one that actually is opened. Yeah, there it is. I have the opened one here. This is the microwave tube. It has a really big cooler on top of it, and you can see there's a glass base there, and there's a socket with an input there, so it can be connected in 3 or 4 points around here, I believe. And that's the tube you'll find inside here. You can see that, because if you take a look at the numbers, they should match. Electron tube, it's the same tube, the 2C39A. Yep. So yeah, that's what that was all about. See if we have something more exciting in this box of excitement. See if there's something more interesting here. What is that? That's interesting. Ooh, this thing is interesting. I think this is a photo tube. Photocoupler maybe? I'm not really sure. This seems interesting. Yeah, this is some kind of photo sensing tube, I think. I'm not really sure what it is. Maybe you can tell me what that is. Looks like some kind of sensor. It's brand new though. I'll Google it and see what it is. It seems interesting enough to Google, so let's do that. Let's Google it. Okay, that's definitely not that one. PG25, maybe if I say Toshiba, it'll get it. Yep, it gets it. There you go. That should be the same package, I think. Looks like it. So there we are. What is that thing? Light electrotube. Okay. What is that? Let's check it out. It's an auction. Sold for 500 yen, whatever that means. Okay. And Dino, you were asking me if I'm ever using these things. Yes, of course I am. Didn't you see the radio I showed you earlier? I showed you a radio I've made out of tubes. Of course I did. So you've seen that plenty of times, the examples I've been showing on this show. The robot I made as well, that was also this from all the components I have here, so of course I use those all the time. But okay, let's find out what this is. I'm kind of curious about that. I want to find out. This is really old. Could there be any explanation somewhere what this is? They sell it, but nobody really explains it. There's maybe another explanation here. No, it's the same page. Okay. Maybe if I get a little bit more specific. No? Okay, this is a rare tube. It is really super rare then, I guess. Super, super rare. Yep. See if we can find something else that's interesting in this. This looks kind of big. What is this? Ooh, big. Wow. That's totally wrapped up. That's why it looks so big. Oh, that's an old tube. That looks disgusting. There's an EL50. It's probably a power tube of some sort. Used in old television sets. That was kind of disgusting. Yep. Away with that. See if we have something else that could be of any interest. Just standard tubes here. What is this? Zero lit form. Danish. Okay. This is a Danish tube, really? I didn't know Denmark used to make vacuum tubes back in the days. This I gotta see. It is not a tube. It is something else. Oh, you're kidding me. It's a coil. It's a coil with a tube, based on with a tube construction, you know, based on the socket. It is a coil, okay. Those are just used to make radios with, or as, you know, as an oscillator, etc., etc. I remember when I bought this, it was from an old guy in Denmark. His family was selling it for him. Didn't really use this anymore. So this, let's check out what this tube is. This is a 2E26. Oh, right. That's nice. That looks brand new, actually. Made in the United States of America. That's what it says right here. Made in the U.S. Right. Oops. Gotta be careful. Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. And there you go. It's kind of fun going through old stuff that I've got laying around here. A bunch of tube sockets down here, I think, as well. Basically look like an old tube goodie box. Ooh, that's old. That is really old. Man, look at that. It looks like it's made of one of those octa-core sockets from the olden days. But it's false advertising, because that's not the one that's inside. It is something else. It is new though, brand new. But it's a different socket. Although it is, no, it's a 9 base. I think that's a Philips, if I'm not, yeah, Philips Minivat EFF51. That's what it says. This one. Kind of fun going through this stuff before my time. Don't believe that I grew up with tubes, because I didn't. I may look old because of the hair and all that, but I didn't grow up with this stuff. I grew up in the age of transistors and the birth of computers. Not birth of computers, birth of personal computers. Because my first computer was a Commodore 64. I still have a similar computer to the Commodore 64, which actually is a Commodore 64. It's just a deluxe version of it. It's called the SX 64. And that was a Commodore 64 in a deluxe business package, if you like. I remember that. So that was kind of fun. I still have that. Just gonna place this back. Let me get that one for you. You can see what I mean. This one. Let me get that. Kind of wonder if it still works. This is the Commodore SX 64. Man, it's gathered a lot of dust because it was in my other room. Out of my 17 rooms. There you go. Yeah, it's really gathering some dust. And yeah, this is kind of a Commodore 64. It's an SX 64, which were so expensive I couldn't really afford it back in the days. Let me remove my glass mouse because it's gonna crash if I use that one here. Glass mouse pad. Oh. Come on. I think I need to lower the camera a little bit for that one. Yep, that's the SX64, and that was a deluxe version of Commodore 64. If you don't remember what the Commodore 64 was like, let's Google it so you can see it. And it looks something like this. This was typical of the Commodore 64. But they also had the deluxe version of Commodore 64, like SX64. So if you Google that at the same time, you can see it comes up with the Commodore SX64. And essentially, if you look at the screen, this is a one that has been replaced with an older ROM, obviously, because they didn't have that screen. They had a green, white screen, more like that instead. That was more like it. And speaking of which, I wonder if this thing actually still works. I mean, I repaired 2 of these units. I gave one of them to my friends because I had 2 of them, but I wouldn't part with this one even if it was depending on my life, because this one is a part of my history. I dragged this along since I was 18 years old, at least 20 years old or something like that, because I couldn't afford it when I was 18, but I got it later when I got a better job. And I got it from some business executive that didn't want it. He sold me 2 of them actually, and I gave one of them to my friends. And unfortunately, I managed to lose the cable because it needs a special cable, a 25 plug cable. It's very small. You can't just use a normal serial cable or a parallel cable for it. But I kind of lost that one, so I remember I made a special one. I have some discs in it still. I made a special one for it. Let's see if I still have that one. I think I got it. So I have to make one in order to make it usable. Again, to see if it works. So I'm gonna fire this unit up and let's see if it actually works. That could be interesting. We're talking many years ago, so to see this baby still work, that would be kind of interesting. I wonder if the disk drive even works on this Commodore 64 SX64. That's what it's called anyway. Boy. Let's see if I can find a power cable somewhere. I'll be right back so you can enjoy it. So I'm gonna let you see all kind of other things first. So I'll be right back and I'll see if I can find a power cable that I can use. Let's see here. I have one here. Wonder if it reaches all the way. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. That's gotta go far. But I think it's gonna reach, actually. It's a far reach, but it might be actually be working, so yeah, that was on as well, so I can do that. Alright, let's fire this baby up and see what it's all about. If you're just tuning in, this is a live broadcast from the electronics show. My name is Tommy Helgevold. I just do this for fun. This is not a show, really. It's just because I'm not really making that many videos anymore. I was thinking I might as well blog live every day, because YouTube saves this anyway, and it takes so much time to edit. People who do this on YouTube, you guys YouTubers, you know what I'm talking about. It takes so much time to edit stuff like that. So instead of doing that, oh, a spider on it. Ugh. Wonder if inside, there's a spider living inside of it. But instead of doing that, I'm using broadcast software instead, so I can do all the fancy tricks and all the transitions and Google stuff live together with you, instead of just having to edit it and then present it several days later. So no, I'm not going to do that anymore, because it takes too much time and it's silly, because I'm messing around with electronics and video games just like you guys do every day anyway, so I might as well just broadcast it. There's nothing better to do. Much more fun to talk with you guys anyway. So yeah, let's do this. Alright, let's fire this one up for the first time ever in a long time. Maybe I should connect the keyboard first, or just start it up. Okay, more spider. Ugh. That sounds weird. Sounded weird when I started it up. That's not a good sign, is it? Oh my goodness, it still works. That's amazing. Great. It still works. Commodore 64. Yes. It still works. That's great. Awesome. It still works. Alrighty. Let's connect the keyboard and see if we can actually load some games. That would be fun if we can do that. And when I remade the cable for this one, because I lost it, I have to like specialize this one a little bit, because they're that small. They're almost impossible to get inside of that small hole that it has here. Gotta remove the power cable when I make it stand up like this. Oh, shit. I didn't expect that. I should have locked it in place with those little locks that it has here. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can insert that in here somehow, because there's such a small slot. I don't know if you can see this, but as you can see, it barely fits inside of here. It barely fits inside of here. So you can't just use a standard cable in order to get it in here. So I have to special design one here in order to make it possible. Because if you go onto YouTube, I mean eBay, YouTube, right? If you go to eBay, you will not be able to find these unless there's just a replacement cable, just like I made them. So since I can make those myself, there's no reason to pay money for it. So I just made one myself instead. You know, might as well. I think this one works just fine. I made it a little bit longer than normal, which is maybe not a good idea, because I remember the I/O port. I do believe it was called a 2626 or 2526. Yeah, 2526, I think. No, what am I saying? 6526. Jeez, I'm getting old. This is after all over 30 years ago. But yes, that was the I/O processor. Or was it the 6520? Don't even remember that. Okay, let's see if it works. Let's fire it up and see what it says. See if we can do something useful with it. See if we can load a disk or something. I'm not expecting too much of a 36-year-old keyboard, or 30 years or something. Anyway, great. Put yourself right in front of the screen. Good idea. See if I can. Okay, I can load something, I think. I think I need to warm up this keyboard somehow, because the keys are kind of stuck. This one won't clear. Oh, there it cleared. It's just, you can see it, and it's a little bit stuck. Load. I have to be a little bit rough with it, obviously. $, and that should be able, I think 8.1 or something like that. No, load $. Am I doing it wrong? I can't even see what I'm writing. Okay, nonsense comes on screen. It doesn't even type what I type. Maybe I should look at that first. Oh yeah. It does not respond very well. Might have helped a little. That helped a lot. So it's context errors we were talking about here. Just don't want to work. It worked once. Now this shift button seemed to work better. Okay. Oh yeah, maybe I should put a disk in. It's a good idea. See what we have. Copy software. Pascal. Don't we have any games? Flipper, Pakakuda. That could be something interesting. Let's see if we can run some of that stuff. Let's try this. You have to understand this is a disk drive that's over 30 years old. The software, you guys, you have memory cards. This one holds maybe 177 kilobytes or something like that. And I think that's double-sided, maybe 300 something. Double-sided, not sure. That's a long time ago. So don't expect absolutely great things from this yet, but I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna load. Okay. This. Oh, it worked this time. That's great. It's like the keyboard needs to warm up to get to be used again. It's starting to work now. It just needs a little bit of love. It needs to wake up to the real world. Oh my god, it's loading. It still works. Unfreaking believable. With double I there. And sometimes it misses the keys. Oh, I had to press it several times in order to make it work. But yeah, it came on screen. It came on screen. So yeah, it came on screen. I'm gonna load one of those programs that you probably can't see, but I'm gonna load it anyway. I'm gonna load it so you can, but I have to see what I'm writing because this keyboard is a little bit flimsical. It probably is full of dust and all that. So I'm gonna load maybe Puyan. I remember that game. Load. Shift doesn't want to work. Puyan. Oh, there's the N finally coming. If I'm not entirely mistaken, I have to write 8.1 in order to load the machine code. But what I can't believe is that a 30-year-old disk drive is still working. It's actually loading. I can't believe it. It doesn't even show errors. This is like amazing to me. This is like a flashback. The only thing that doesn't work properly is the keyboard. And hey, that's a thing we can look at. So we'll check that out later on. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow because it's nearing that time where I'm going to shut out the show. But let's go through this again first. And as you said, Dino, it might take a while to load this. It might take a while to actually load this. But it is loading, as you can see. Which is incredible when you think about how old this unit is. It loaded, no errors, no blinking. Wow. Let's run it, see what it says. Does it even type run? It runs. Wow. Ha! How awesome is that? I even heard some sound. Let's see if we can fire this game up. I have to see what I'm doing, otherwise I will not be able to see it. That is really Poyan. Wow. Sound is there too. Yeah. How do you start this? Maybe I need an old-fashioned joystick. It has joystick ports. Let me see if I can find a joystick port for it. I'll be right back. I have an old Atari joystick downstairs. I can use that. Yep, I do have an old Atari joystick. I do. It is one that I had to fix in order to make my old Atari 2600 work again. Because if you remember correctly, these were notorious for breaking. The plastic inside of them broke all the time. But I rebuilt it from scratch, so to speak, so I know this one works really well. Can't see a thing in here. See what it says. Controller 1, controller 2. Okay. Alright. Let's do this. Oh, it works. I can sort of see the reflection. If I'm not mistaken, I'm supposed to get this and prohibit the wolves from taking the sheeps. Oh dear. One got by. Oh crap, I didn't get it. But it's kind of difficult to see it in the camera. I can't play it unless I'm actually facing it. But the purpose was only to show you that this thing is alive anyway. Live and well. It works just fine. Yep. That was kind of fun. And now I know this old thing is working just fine. Pretty awesome. Schwartz is commenting in the chat box that he has an old Game Boy. Is it a color? Yeah, it's a color. Game Boy Color, and it works as well. I remember the Game Boy Color when they sold it at the last time when they tried to get rid of it on the market. I had a blast. Unfortunately, I don't have the same collection anymore, but I remember when they sold them for the last time. I could get a Game Boy Color for less than $5, and I bought like 3 or 4 different that was left of them, even if they were pink and weird. No, they weren't pink. There was like another color like that, blue and red and green. There were all kinds of colors, but they were in color as well. There was a color screen on them. And I also bought one of those Game Boy printer. It was a thermal printer, where you had to have a Game Boy camera, which were a black and white camera, and you can take prints of yourself. You can even make animations with the camera. It was actually kind of fun. I remember I did that. So that was kind of fun back in the days. Yeah. Fun to see that whole thing is actually working. I might actually make a project with it one day. One of those things that I remember that I was really fond of using these devices to, especially this one, was actually before we had cheap microcontrollers. Sorry for banging into the microphone all the time. But it's kind of cramped in here, and I mean really cramped. I can't hardly move my chair even. But yeah. One of those things that I liked to use it for before we got microcontrollers was the I/O port. Oh, God damn it. The I/O port. As you can see here, behind here, there's an I/O port. And it was 8-bit compatible, and all I needed to do was to poke a command 1, 2, 4, 8, 32, 64, 128, and 256. No, not 256. But you know what I'm saying. It was actually 0, 1, etc., etc. in order to turn on the TTL compatible outputs. I could also use peek to read a certain memory address. So if I short-circuited GND in one of the I/O ports, I would be able to read the corresponding number in bits, and a byte, of course, together, in order to read the status of the input-output I/O port of the Commodore 64. I used that a lot back in the days in order to control motors, control external units. So before we had microcontrollers like the Arduino you guys take for granted today, this was my Arduino. Big, bulky, all-in-one unit with a computer that could control all kinds of stuff. That was pretty much fun back in those days. You had the pink one, Schwartz? He's talking about the Game Boy Color. You can't see the chat here right now unless you are in the live show at the moment, but for you guys who are watching the recording in the future, you will not be able to see the chat yet. I'm probably going to work on something like that so I can customize a window with a chat on. That would be very practical. But I have to figure out that for the future. This is just a test anyway, just like yesterday was a test, until we go really live with this stuff. So it's going to be fun to see how it works out. Yep. I'm going to place this back. Alright, and we're back. I'm going to show you something I bet you haven't seen before, especially if you're into electronics. You probably haven't seen this before at all. Can you guess what this is? I'm going to reveal it later in the program. I'm going to reveal what this is, but I'm going to, show it to you so you have a good chance of guessing what it is. You can press it like this, and something happens. If you look at it, you can see that something is happening. It's quite rare. I found this one in a radio amateur flea market as well. But this is a professional tool of some sort. I know exactly what it is, and it's very handy. I'm using it quite a lot myself. But it isn't something you just walk out and buy. It's possible to adjust it. You can adjust the spacing, as you can see here. It's very accurate. And now you can see those things moving from apart from each other, like this. And you can still do this. Yeah. So I'm gonna leave it to you guys, and guess what that is. Try to guess what this is. I'm gonna reveal it later in the program. However, let's watch some questions. Hi Benjamin, and thanks for joining us. He is writing, I got a Commodore 64 when I was 10 years old. I started programming on it as I didn't even have a tape recorder at first. And he has been programming for 33 years now. Okay, Benjamin, that's pretty interesting. That sort of resembles my childhood as well. Except I haven't been programming for 33 years. I've been doing all kinds of other stuff as well. I never went truly into programming. The only thing that I did back in the days, I was programming a Commodore 64 video game. Because we didn't have video games when I got the first Commodore 64. As far as I remember, my serial number was 000003 or something like that. It was way early. It was so early that the Commodore 64 cost 6,000 Norwegian kroners instead of 3,000, which it cost later when it dropped even further down to 2,500. And I got it from a magazine called Hobby Data. Hobby Data in Norway. It's a hobby data, like a hobby computer magazine. It was sold both in Norway and Denmark and Sweden, but I just happened to live nearby. I lived in a town called Stavanger, and that was next to Sandnes, and we had a guy called Erik Lygre, I think. I'm not really sure, but he was running a magazine called Hobby Data, and that was where I actually bought my first Commodore 64. And I had to program the piano program, which were back in the manual. You probably remember this, Benjamin. And I had to program that manually. I didn't have a tape recorder. I didn't have a disc recorder, just like you. And what I did, it took me I was maybe 10 to 12 years old. I don't remember exactly, but it's roughly the same age as you, Benjamin. And I had to manually type in that program called piano, which made you able to play a piano program on your keyboard. It was revolutionary for your time. The sound that is called a SID chip, the 6581, if I'm not entirely mistaken. It was a analog/digital chip for creating music. It was one of the world's first digital synthesizers with a analog ring modulator, as far as I can remember. But it was a lot of fun, and I had to program my video games too, because they weren't available back then. But I remember how annoyed I was with that early computer, because my power cable fell out all the time, which means I got really angry with my computer. You can imagine a 10-year-old kid, and you've just been spending 2 to 4 hours just typing in, because you weren't really fast back then. You're just typing in for the first time that program example back in the book just so you can use it for something. And the power cable whoosh, just fell out. I was so frustrated. And I had to put it back, and I put a stack of books on the power cable and powered it up again and just started all over again typing the program into it, because as Benjamin and I am talking about, if you're just tuning in, we had to program everything manually, or have a cartridge or something like that. We didn't have the luxury of a tape drive or a cassette or a cassette player or a disc drive. We didn't have the luxury of that. I got one finally a couple of months later. I got a tape drive, and then a half a year to a year later, I finally got a disc drive for it, and I can finally save it on floppy disk, just like the one I just showed you here earlier. So yeah. Benjamin says, I did program the piano example as well, but Mom turned off the computer as she needed the socket. Bummer. That reminds me of something. I remember when I got my first Commodore 64 modem. It wasn't that far after. I think it was just a year later I got my first modem. It was a Handic teletext sort of thing, which resembled text television, which we got in our earliest televisions, also back in 1983. But you had the difference between text television and that modem and the Commodore 64 is, of course, you had to pay quite a huge telephone bill in order to call somewhere where they actually had teletext via the computer. And it was like a 75 baud / 1200 baud modem, and you could literally just watch the text build up on the screen as you were waiting for the next page or clicking on the next page. We weren't clicking on the next page, we were just basically selecting with the up and down button, because we didn't have mouse control or anything like that back then. Have you guys been able to guess what this unit is? It is a professional tooling, is a professional thing used for various services in electronics, but it's kind of special. It is unique. I'm going to reveal later in the program what it really is, so stay tuned. And nobody's been able to guess it yet. I'm looking at the chat, the live chat, and see if anybody's guessing what this is. I'm going to leave it here so you guys can study it a little bit while we are talking about old days in Commodore 64. This is an interesting development. It started out talking about hoarders and people who hoarded a lot of stuff, to Commodore 64's history and how we grew up with those computers. So yeah, Benjamin, I'm glad you joined, because now I finally get to talk to somebody who has something in common with my childhood, because we were probably roughly the same age, I'm guessing. So yeah, I was talking about in one of my earlier shows that we should have a Commodore 64 machine code or assembly code show off, or where we could program together and stuff like that. It would be kind of awesome. Another comment from Benjamin. Tommy, can you tell what program does 10-poke 5380? You almost got it right. Oh yeah, he wrote. I just read it wrong. He got it right. It says 10, line 10. We're talking about basic programming here, Commodore 64 basic. Line 10, poke 5380, comma 0, and line 20 will be poke 5381, comma 0, and the next line will be 30, poke 53280.1, and 40, poke 53281.1. Go to 10. Yes, I can easily tell you that, and he knows that I can tell you that. But can the viewers tell us that? I will leave it a little bit and see if somebody else can guess it. I'm going to go back to it, so don't reveal it, Benjamin. I know exactly what it does, but I want the other people who are watching be able to guess this. Okay, I'm going to give you a hint, Swartz. I'm going to give you a hint. This one is used by professional electronics people back in the days. They might still be using it. It is made for, and this is the hint, it is made for through-hole components. And just to give you an idea what a through-hole component is, it is not components like this. This is a socketed component. This could be a through-hole component, this chip here. But this one, I better be careful about that because I'm touching static memory here. It's probably going to destroy it if I touch it. This one is a surface mount device. This is not a through-hole. That should give you plenty of hints to what this can be used for, but I'm not going to show you the components yet because that will be a dead giveaway. So I'm asking people now, can you guess what this tool is or was used for? It is still used somewhere, I believe, especially if you're repairing professional items. You would need one of these in order to make everything that you repair look really professional. Okay. Benjamin, we have a winner. Benjamin, very good. It is being used for bending resistors. This is right. And since you got that right, I'm going to give you the answer you were looking for on the Commodore 64 quiz, the program you just sent me mentally. That is changing the Commodore borders and the Commodore colors of the background and the Commodore border colors. So it's basically flashing between two colors. I believe it's flashing between black or white, if I'm not entirely mistaken. Okay, was that right, Benjamin? I think I got it right. But this one does not cut off resistors as well, but it bends them very neatly, and I'm going to show you exactly how neat that is because it makes everything looks really professional. I love that part. So if you have if you have a PCB like this and you don't want to do that manually, let's take a bunch of resistors I don't need, because I have sorted ones, but I don't want to use those because that's too fancy for this. So let's take just one resistor here from a random box. They're all brand new anyway. It looks like this. Yep, I'm going to bang into the microphone a few times because we don't have much space here. And I'm going to show you exactly how they're used. You can see this. This is a PCB. Normally you'd have to manually, bend them yourself, and it may not look that pretty. And if you are in a repair situation, that will not look very professional. If you were placing it in like this, you can't even space it properly like this. And you can see it. If you made it like this, it doesn't look very professional at all. But in order to make it look really factory manufactured, you could do it very precisely with one of these. You can use those two spacers, as you see here, to pinpoint exactly where you want them by simply saying, I want it a little bit thinner than that, so and so many millimeters between each. I'm adjusting it now so it fits a couple of holes in here. Let's say I'm going to stretch them exactly between here and here. I will place the component in those two holes that I have here, roughly exactly like that. Oh, let's see if I can get it right. And it bends it like it did there. And now you have a very factory-like production. You have something that looks professional. This doesn't look like it's done by a human hand. So when you put it in, it will fit that area perfectly. Ah, come on. Maybe I should get glasses once in a while. There you go. And it fits absolutely perfectly. It fits so perfectly, in fact, that it will actually fall out if I do this, as you can see here. That's how perfect that is. And that is thanks to the two spacers we have in front here, which you can just use to put right directly into the holes of the PCBs. And that means you will have an exact distance. You don't even have to measure it. You can just use those two in order to figure out the distance. So you don't have to second guess anything like that. So that's pretty practical. So yeah, that's it, really. Alrighty. Good guess. One day, if we ever get big enough on this show, I'm going to be actually sending you guys prizes for guessing stuff like that. Right now, we can't afford that. But later in the future, we'll be doing something like that if it gets big enough. I don't think this channel here will ever get big enough for that anyway. I don't think that will ever happen. Ever. But you never know. Okay. I'm reading your chat right now, and right now Benjamin is saying, I used Vero boards to cut to size to bend resistors. Oh yeah, you can use that. Definitely, that's a good thing. The Vero boards he's talking about, that's just the kind of PCB I just showed you right here. That's a typical Vero board. Vero boards were usually those with connections in one long stripe, or horizontally or vertically. This one is just a different Vero boards where everything is disconnected, so you can solder everywhere you want to. What you did with the Vero boards is that you cut with a small knife in between those long stripes where you wanted the connection to break, so you don't have to solder everywhere. That's what kind of practical. I remember that, Benjamin. That's our childhood you're talking about now. So yeah, I do remember that. I'm gonna bring you something here that's gonna bring tears to your eyes, I think. When I was at an auction here the other day, I found tons of these. And I literally got a whole load of this. There's more of them. I could just throw them on a huge stack on here. Can you guys guess what this is? It is a display, that much we all know. But what kind of display is it? Try to guess what it is. I'm going to reveal the answer later in the show. But right now I'm just going to hear all mine, all mine. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to leave it to you guys to guess what this is. Yes, they are LCD modules. They are LCD displays modules. But they're kind of special. I'll show you them again. So if you're willing to guess what they are, because they're kind of special. They're not like your average LCD modules. They're not like those I have. I have a whole box of them. I might as well take them out. I have more than a whole box of them. They're not like these. These are the LCD modules you're talking about, those 44 Hitachi compatible ones you can just use with Arduinos or whatever. Same thing with these things, stuff like that, same thing. Come in all kinds of sizes and all shapes and stuff like that. It is not those. They are, in fact, a little bit different use, if you like, than those. So let's see if you can guess it. Schwarzkater is guessing it's from a calculator. Yeah, you're very close. It is not exactly a calculator though, but you're very close. And Dino Riordan, I don't even know how to say that username, 2010. I'm going to call you 2010 from now on because that's easier. He's guessing it's Game Boy screens. Nope, not exactly, because they don't have the same resolution. They're much smaller, as you can see. I can reveal that there are digits rather than dot matrix graphics on them. So they're used for something. In fact, they're incredibly useful. Everybody would love to have these. Even if you're not into electronics, you will still love to have these. Because you can use them in your car, you can use them in your home, you can use them basically everywhere. And all the electronics freaks out there, they're going to love to have these. I mean, I got these for cents. I'm not kidding you. I mean, I literally got them for nothing. But they need an extra, in order to be useful at all, they sort of need an extra component. They actually need 2 extra components. They need to be shunted. That's one of them. You can use a shunt on them. And Benjamin, you should have a hint now since I said shunting. I gave you a gigantic hint right there. And you're going to need an ICL 7660, which is a voltage inverter, because you need -5 volts for some reason to run this properly. Otherwise, it will not be run properly. So you're going to need that in order to use that. So let's see if you can figure that out before I get back to you. I'm just going to show you something not related, because I'm going to get something else right now. I'll be right back. Okie dokie, I'm right back. I have some extra cool stuff I can show you. Well, I mean, Benjamin, you're really, really close. I gotta tell you that. You are really, really close. You could say that, because this is sort of a multimeter too. So, yeah, I'll almost buy the answer there from Benjamin. But then again, you have to understand, he has been working with electronics and programming for a long, long time, so he is kind of knowledgeable on that area. I'm going to give you guys the last hint that you'll ever get, and Benjamin is probably going to get this right away, actually. You see this? This is what Benjamin is talking about. He's calling that a multimeter, but this is not a multimeter. It has a specific name. And if you see the solar panel that I've connected to it, you can see that it will immediately start to raise as it gets closer to the lamp up there. If I cover the solar panel, you can see it doesn't get anything. But if I remove myself from it, wink, see, I'm covering the light like this. So it's a meter of some sort. But I'm still looking for the exact right answer to what this is. It has a name, and is a very common name. You were very close when you said a multimeter, Benjamin. I can't say more than that, but you are the closest one so far. This is not a multimeter. It is a meter, but not a multimeter. This is a meter, but it's not a multimeter. So let's see if you guys can guess this so far. I'm waiting for those chat windows answers right there. See if you got it. If not, let's go on to something else. And we're back. This is sort of meters as well. Yeah. Well, yeah, sort of. Benjamin, you're close. I'm not gonna keep your guys in pain anymore. Benjamin, you're definitely the closest. It is not a multimeter as such. It is just a voltmeter. All that it does is to measure voltage. That's all that it does. That's all that it really is. It is just a voltmeter. A module for measuring voltages. What it does is that it measures voltages, millivoltages, actually up to 200 millivolts. But you can use that in order to create a voltmeter. And technically, if you want to, you could use that to make a multimeter too as well. But it doesn't have the ohm measurements. You have to put in the rest of the components in order to measure it correctly and all that. But you can use currents to do that, of course. So you can technically make a multimeter out of this. But if you just want to use it like a meter, this is also a voltmeter. You can use it to measure current as well, of course, but you need to put it up in serial instead of parallel in order to do that, in order to measure the current going through the circuit. And you need to shunt it as well so you can get the proper values, otherwise it will not work. So yeah. And yes, Schwartz, you can definitely use these for radios if you wanted it to output a certain frequency. Let's say that you are making a radio and you're using a what's called a variable. What do you call that? Not a variable capacitor, but there's a special diode. It's not a Zener diode. Or what do you call that? Is a diode that which capacitance changes when you apply voltage across it. Varicap diode, a variable capacitance diode. That's exactly what they used to call it. If you use one of those, you can you can increase the voltage or decrease the voltage, and you can use that in a oscillator circuit in order to make the frequency go higher and swing higher or swing lower. And if you use the voltage correctly, you can use that to display the frequency corresponding to that voltage that you are using across that diode. That is the simplest explanation that I can possibly give to you in order to give you an idea how you could use this as a radio frequency display, if you like. A frequency. It won't be a frequency counter as such, as you're just really cheating. You're not counting number of pulses here or hertz or anything like that. You are just generally increasing or decreasing the voltage, and it will increase and decrease the number on the display as corresponding to that. So yeah, that's right. It is. You can call it a milliamp meter. You can call it a voltmeter. This one just happened to be a milliamp meter, and the other one is a voltmeter. It really doesn't matter because it depends on how you use it. If you use it directly, plus and minus, you will have a voltmeter. If you use it in series, from one end to the other, you will be able to use it as a ampermeter, a milliampermeter in this case, if you do not use any additional resistors on it. So yeah. Okay, you guessed that so far, so that's not too bad. That was pretty fun. I'm gonna put this back now. Back to the olden days again. Let's go and see if we can find some really old radios. There was this really old radio that I found on found at a flea market a long time ago. I'll see if I can show you this. I think I found a simulated radio that looks like it is from the 80s. It would look something like this. It doesn't look exactly like this, but it's very similar. It does not look like this, but more like that in a way, or more like this. So I'm guessing my radio is from the 20s. This is a 1920s radio, but it's branded, as you can see. It is branded. I will be right back, and I'll show you this radio I found, and you will be able to see what I'm talking about. This is kind of interesting, so don't go away. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. All right. Alrighty. This one is kind of interesting. Takes up a little bit of space. Alright. This is one of those old radios that kind of resemble the radio we just showed you. So I'm kind of thinking that this radio that is from the 1920s. This is either a radio before that or radio after that. I'm not really sure. Some people at the electronics forum, they were sort of suggesting that this radio here could be just someone remade their old grandfather's radio in order to surprise them, or reminiscence or anything like that, because I can't find any brands on it. Maybe the brands have been there and just fallen off over time. I'm not really sure, but if you take a look inside, the box itself is absolutely wonderful. It's a magnificent looking box. That is why I'm thinking that is probably not from the 20s. But I did Google the components inside of this box, and they are in fact from the 20s. And I kid you not. These old tubes here, they are in fact from the 20s. So it has original tubes from the 20s. So this radio here could be, yeah, it is fantastic. It could be 20 years old. It is not working, obviously, because we're talking about nearly 100-year-old radio here. It looks like there's something messed up with the dials in here. As you can see, it's come loose, and the cables are just laying loosely around in it somehow, as you can see here. And there are some loose wires inside of it, so I don't think this one will work just like that. But it is, for what it is actually in an absolutely amazing condition. Somehow this must have been in someone's storage, very dry for a really long time, because all these old things, even that television set I showed you earlier on of 1959, not today, but the one you see in my other show, has a lot of corrosion on it, because when you find these in some people's garage, or they find them in their own garage and sell them on the flea markets to people like me, they are full of corrosion. It is really rare for me to find a box like this that looks like it has absolutely no corrosion whatsoever. So for its age, it is absolutely gorgeous, and I really would love to rebuild it. But I'm a little bit afraid to rebuild something like this, because if this really is one of the world's first radios from the 20s, which it can be, there is no guarantee that it's not. But I talked to a lot of old timers, and they said you could buy radio kits like this back in the days, where you can actually build your own unbranded radios. But there are certain things that are fragile. For example, I tried to wash the dials here. I'm afraid of touching them, because when I washed the dials, they actually faded out when I was washing them. So that means if I'm using some kind of a dishwasher liquid to wash this thing, the dials are going to be wiped out completely. So I don't dare to do that. Maybe I could spray some lacquer on it to keep the dials forever. I don't know. No, but I'm really afraid of touching that part, because you know this thing could be an incredible collector's item. Imagine if this is the original thing. Imagine if this one is really one of the world's first radios. It certainly has all the hallmarks of it. It has not been branded. It has original tubes. I found them on eBay. They are actually from the 20s. They're not later than that. So this is kind of interesting. Yeah. All right. Benjamin saying they look like typical early valves. Sorry about that. Getting too old now. Been here for maybe 2 hours now. It's taking a lot of time. Benjamin writes, they look like a typical early valves. You should restore it. I restored a Philips Candela BD673A last year. Got it from a flea market for $10. Well, yeah, that's roughly what I got this baby for. I paid roughly about $10 for this unit too. So you restore that. I will love to see that. It says it is from 1955. I'm going to Google that just to see what he's talking about, because, you know, I'm pretty sure you guys want to know that as well. You said Philips Candela. I'm not really sure how it spells Philips, but that's one. Candela 673A. All right. Probably spelling it wrong there. That's my bad, I guess. Okay, that one. Is this the one, Benjamin? I'm wondering about that, because it looks kind of gorgeous. There seems to be more modeled than that. Oh, that's the 753. Okay. Let's check that out. That was, he has some Lightning series call that as well. Yeah, that is a Philips Candela 73A. That's the one. That is pretty nice. That was the flagship model in 1957-58, and the price was roughly 575 Deutsche Mark. It has 5 permanent dynamic speakers, and it doesn't have a transformer as far as my Dutch is not very good. My Deutsch is not very good, so I'm trying to read this. Something like that. Right. All right, that's pretty good. That's pretty cool. A lovely radio. Right. Awesome. It also have something called the Magic Eye. I really love those things in the radios. I have some fantastic console radio downstairs, which have the Magic Eye. And there's the Magic Eye we're talking about. This is the tuning eye of the thing. When you are in tune, then this thing will fill up a lot, which means it will display very brightly. So when you're out of tune, it will be thinner and thinner and stuff like that. And you can use this to see if your radio is optimally tuned. I have some fantastic console radios downstairs. I do believe I have a video about this on YouTube myself. I believe Benjamin might have seen this, because I did restore 2 of my radios as well. I'm just a little bit afraid of restoring this radio, because because if I restore this radio, it could lose value, just like my big console radio did when I restored it. But it was wonderful to hear and listen to, though. It was an absolutely gorgeous radio. So yeah, that's the only thing they are displaying on my science channel. This is my thumbnail now. Great. The electronic show will be back shortly. This is now officially the thumbnail that YouTube chose. Of all the stuff that it could have chosen, it chose exactly that image. I've shown this once on my channel, and this is now my channel image. Thank you, YouTube. You're such a nice channel. Anyway, let me see if I can find this. It should probably be one of the first videos I made when I moved to Sweden. You should be able to see some of my repaired console radios right here. Even listen to the music a little bit. Let's see if I can turn up the volume.
I probably haven't told you guys this before, but I'm also
about me growing vegetables indoors. And that is in fact the music from the radio that you hear, the old console radio over there. It is also a Philip, but I rebranded it Luxor or something like that. So yeah, that was pretty much it. So yeah, so I'm a little bit worried about restoring this this thing here because of that, because it will drop in value immediately the minute you touch it and restore it and stuff like that. But of course it's fun. The only reason I'm not doing it is because it really does look like one of the world's first radios, commercially available or whatever, just completely unbranded or whatever. But I can't believe the condition it actually came in, because this is really good to be 100 years old. Well, it's officially 100. Maybe in 4 years it will be 100 years old. Yeah, right. Yeah, I should be repairing it, he says, and make it work. But yeah, but I'm not really sure I want to touch it. I really have to be honest. Let's just find out. I have another television set I did talk about I'm going to restore, the one from the 1959. It's a Dux Swedish brand. But thanks to my viewers here, I found out that it's actually a Philips 170 model or whatever they call it. So I'm going to look into that one first. I will need to clear some space here in order to repair that one, so you guys can actually be a part of that. But I think I'm going to do that when my official live show will be on. So yeah, I think so. Yep. Okay. I have been broadcasting now for 2 hours, and I'm going to reduce it to 2 hours every single day because I'm getting more and more tired the more I'm sitting here talking. Because making a 2-hour show is actually really, really hard. It is really exhausting because I'm talking and talking and talking and stuff like that, and having to come up with stuff to show all the time. So what I will do is, if I do something interesting, I will turn it on. I probably will have live shows 2100 hours every single day if I can, so it will be something like this, is what you will see at some point. And I'll try to stay faithful to that, but I can't guarantee anything because my job situation is a little bit rocky right now, so I'm not really sure how that's going to go. But yeah, I hope you have been enjoying it, and I'm going to leave you guys now. I'm going to thank all of you for following this show tonight. Both Schwartz, Dean, and Benjamin. I think you are the guys who are online right now at the moment. So I thank you very much for following the show. Some of you guys have been following it every day, and that's pretty nice. So I'll see you later.